Hi, this is Randy Randall of No Age and host of the podcast Hyphenate with Randy Randall. I want to welcome our newest sponsor of the show, DistroKid. DistroKid helps musicians get their music on all the major streaming platforms, and artists keep 100% of their royalties. Hyphenate listeners get 30% off at distrokid.com/VIP/hyphenate. Again, that's distrokid.com/VIP/HYPHENATE. Go get your music streaming everywhere now. We'd like to thank our sponsor, iZotope, the absolute leaders in intuitively designed plugins for audio restoration, mixing, and mastering. At iZotope.com, you'll find a plethora of tools and suites that will enhance your audio production, whether it's voice, video, podcast, or a full production recording session. Check out the industry-standard audio repair tool, RX11, or the multi-tool mixer plugin Neutron 5, or the powerful Ozone 11 mastering suite, plus tons more. Go to iZotope.com and use the code FRET10 at checkout for 10% off. That's FRET10 to get 10% off at checkout. And again, the website is iZotope.com, iZotope.com.
Just try and be visible for other people that are like me, that might need to see someone like me being visible, that would give them courage so that they don't hate themselves at night, because I know what that feels like. And to just, if nothing, regardless of who I am as a person, just to put some love out there, encourage someone to want to pick up their instrument and just have fun.
What's happening? Thanks so much for tuning in to Hyphenate with me, your host, Randy Randall. I'm very excited for this show, Thursday, April 17th. On today's show, I have an incredible guitar player. She is funky, and she's awesome and very generous with her time. Miss Ella Feingold is on the show today. If you don't know her, you can look up her Instagram. That's how I first got to learn about her and meet her. It's Ella, ELLA _Ray, RAE _Feingold, FEINGOLD. She is an incredibly prolific guitar player, session musician, traveling live performer. And we have a great conversation. We talk about rhythm guitar, funk guitar, funk music, being inspired and learning, and just crushing it, just crushing it in life in general. Ella is somebody whose videos will come up on my Instagram, and I'm just always like, oh, so good. She's got such great instructional videos, inspirational videos, and really just a way to approach the guitar, I think, in such an organic way that I'm always stoked when her videos pop up on my feed. I mean, I follow a lot of guitar players and definitely a guitar nerd in so many ways. And when I first saw hers pop up, I was like, how is she so funky? Like, where is this coming from? And then I did more research and kind of understood, her career better. And I was like, oh my God, she's, prolific and so accomplished. And so I was really stoked that she had the time while she's working on her new record to jump on the mics and talk a little bit about her journey and being visible as well. She is a trans woman and incredibly inspiring and, very visible in the world. And I wanted to amplify that, and I'm just stoked to have her on regardless, but it was very, very empowering in some ways just to see her, her journey and see how she, how she's gone through this incredibly, prolific career, accomplished all these things, and had this personal life and journey, and accomplished so much in her life. So really excited to share this interview with everyone. Also want to say, thank you to the sponsors. We got DistroKid hanging in there, distrokid.com/VIP/hyphenate. And we also have a new sponsor or new responsor, iZotope. If you go to iZotope.com, IZOTOPE, I think there's a whole thing going on there. It's for plugins. If you're a music producer, music recording artist, Isotope makes an incredible suite of high grade professional plugins that will make your recording sound better. Also want to give a shout out to Audioscape Engineering, maker of great hardware. I've got the LA2A, which they would call the OptoComp, as well as an 1176 and SSL G-Bus, which all have very cool names as well. What do we call them? The G-Bus is the VCA G stereo compressor. And the 76D limiter, that's the 1176 version. Audioscape Engineering, very cool. If you're a producer, if you make music, if you got a home studio, check them out, Audioscape Engineering. And also check out Isotope and DistroKid as well. Get your music up there. If you're making music out there, get it up on all the streaming platforms for a discount using distrokid.com/VIP/hyphenate. So without further ado, I'll get to my interview with the one and only Miss Ella Feingold. Ella, thank you so much for coming on Hyphenate. It's great to meet you.
Great to meet you too. Happy to be here.
Thanks for making the time. I have been a fan online. I love your playing. I love your music. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Where did you get started? How did you first pick up guitar?
I started playing when I was, 13, and got my first guitar in 92. And sorry, you're going to hear my cat.
Oh, that's okay. No worries.
Do his thing. And yeah, just been playing since I was about 13 years old.
Amazing. And who were your first influences, or what caused you to first pick it up?
La Bamba, I would say. The movie La Bamba got me into it. Yeah, my influences weren't really I loved Hendrix, but I never went through that suburban, Led Zeppelin and Jimmy Page and Kiss and AC/DC. Those were never my influences. It was kind of really, I grew up around the grunge era, but my dad raised me on Black American music. So it was sort of like Motown and Michael Jackson and the OJs and Supremes and stuff like that. But playing music in the 90s, it was like Sonic Youth and Pearl Jam and Nirvana and Mad Season and all these bands. So it's kind of both at the same time. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I think we're probably around the similar age. I was born in 81 and got a guitar when I turned 13 in 92, right around that same time. I had a white Fender Squier. It was the cheap Guitar Center special. Yeah. So
I had what did I have? A red and black, Yamaha. It's like a Yamaha Strat ripoff.
Sure. Yeah. They're everywhere. I bought, it was so ridiculous in those first years of just trying to learn, go to Guitar Center and just trying to find anything. I remember I got the Jimi Hendrix tab for his Woodstock set, for a first guitar.
Guitar player. I'm sure that was accurate too.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I couldn't even play a chord. This is the first thing I bought. But I think this is cool. And just was completely, over my head. And so I went back to reading the guitar magazines, with the little tab of learning how to play Nirvana songs, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, same.
And did you take lessons, or was it mostly self-taught?
In the very beginning, I was all self-taught, no tabs or anything, just kind of listening and trying to just figure things out by ear. When I don't remember exactly what age, maybe 14 or 15. I started to take some lessons with a local guy. That was maybe for a few months. But mostly just kind of self-taught and playing in my basement and turning up my little PV Rage 108 amp too loud and pissing off my dad. And then I guess in high school, I started to take some lessons. And if I'm being honest, it was a waste of time and money.
What was the style of the lesson, or what do you think didn't connect?
I was a 15-year-old kid. I didn't want to learn the F Lydian scale starting on the lowest note of each string up the neck. It was I I was at a time where I just wanted to be inspired and excited about music. You
Hmm.
know, I wasn't, it just, that's not what I wanted. And this guy was a Berkeley College professor. So it was like, just kind of doing like, oh, we're going to do sequences and patterns. And it just felt like busy work. And, you know, I'm not saying that you don't have to have craft, obviously, to play an instrument. But at that age, what would have been better is just connecting with the instrument and playing it and developing a voice and a sound and a love for it and strengthening it versus just some kind of other stuff that, you know, I just, and even now, you know, as a 44-year-old woman, like I don't practice that way. I'm engaging and learning music every day, but I don't engage it that way.
Hmm. Well, that's one thing that I love about your Instagram channel and the videos you post is it
Oh,
really
thank
comes
you.
from this, sort of place of like, here's how these iconic parts are played, and here's why I love these parts, and here's why these things are so exciting.
Yeah, I try and approach it more organically. I mean, it's just also like sometimes I'm lucky enough to know the people that literally made the part or the song or whatever, and they're not thinking about any of those things. And I can say for myself, even when I'm writing parts on records, I'm not thinking super theoretically. I can explain it afterwards, but you know, for a lot of them, it was just, I mean, I can't speak for someone, but less C dominant seven, sharp nine, and more. I need to fill in a space, and people are playing fast, so I'm going to play slow for contrast.
Mm.
More just real blue collar, you know,
Fitting
the
in the
faucet
mix.
is broken, need to fix the faucet with a wrench kind of thing, you know?
I'm I'm gonna get this note out of here because it doesn't belong in this scale. Or I'm gonna put this note in here because it's gonna add a color. It's gonna help me kind of stand out.
Yeah, or the
Whatever
bass
it needs.
player is playing. Do I really need to put my low E string in there? Like I think James Jamerson's got it covered on the low end. So I'm gonna, you know, start my voicing without the low E because don't need to, you
Yeah,
know.
which in
So
theory, which is music theory, or it's a technique. But when it comes down to it, just like you said, it's a nuts and bolts kind of mechanical
yeah,
way of
I
looking at
mean,
it.
I look at it that way, much more as a craft. Not that music can't be, you know, inspirational and otherworldly, but a lot of it, yeah, is it's like a craft, like learning a trade, and yeah.
It's incredible. And so you said your dad introduced you to a lot of sort of Black American music, but specifically, funk and soul music. Like I see that a lot on your channel, and sort of the funk and rhythm techniques. When did that start to become part of your body of work, or how did you start to develop that
Yeah.
style?
I mean, again, I would say would start with my dad just from playing stuff and hearing, like, I don't know, shit. I mean, It's a Shame or something. You know, that's Stevie Wonder playing
Mhm.
drums on It's a Shame. A lot of people don't know that. You know, that it's just funky, you know? So
Mhm.
just, even though that might not have literally been Bootsy Collins or James Brown, like it just was funk, just a different kind of funk, and Sly Stone. And so, I mean, it started there and it just kept growing. And I guess as I got older, it was more of a musical. I mean, I could maybe around college is when it, you know, when I was like, I want to play rhythm. I want to be a rhythm guitar player. I'm not interested in soloing. And and that's, you know, and then a few years after that, it turned into a career. But I'd say the inspiration was really from my dad just putting records on, you know, playing stuff in the car and being like, this just feels good. And if I'm playing music that doesn't feel good like this, I don't really want to play it.
It's incredible.
Uh,
I mean, I'm
yeah,
thinking just around our same age, a band like the Red Hot Chili Peppers was sort of the first band I knew as a white suburban kid in Southern California to sort of
sure,
introduce the idea of funk and playing,
sure,
make it funky. And Blood Sugar
sure,
Sex Magic was a huge hit record
sure,
at that same
absolutely.
time. I mean, was that something that came into the picture, or
Yeah,
did you
I
have an
mean, you know,
opinion about that or stuff? Yeah.
you can't escape being like an MTV kid, you know.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, Blood Sugar and stuff. Can't say I listen to that stuff now, but when
Hmm.
I was a kid, yeah, you know, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, you know, yeah,
Yeah, for
for
better or
sure.
worse, they were part of that, sort of American alternative music sort of palette,
Yeah,
and
and
brought a lot of ideas
nice
out.
to know that they existed, you know, in that space. So, you
Yeah.
know.
And then you said you're then turning it into a career. Like what was your first, performances? Did you start a band, or were you hired as session stuff, or how did that go? How was that development?
I got my start in 2005 with Queen Latifah.
That's huge.
So yeah,
How does something like that happen? I mean, that's so like in my world of grew up playing small clubs and all ages spaces and a lot of bedroom 4-track stuff. And
oh, I
then
mean, I was doing all that.
okay,
I was playing in bar bands and paying dues and driving in vans and playing for no money and, working at a coffee shop and, doing all of those things too, of course. But that break happened because my friend's grandfather is a horn contractor,
ooh,
was a horn contractor. He passed away, Ernie Fields Jr. And Ernie worked with Ricky Minor, another musical director. And so Ernie put in a word for me to audition. My first audition was for Britney Spears's Onyx tour. I think around 2001 or 2002 or something like that. I mean, I must have been 20 years old, 21.
wow.
I don't think I don't even think I could legally drink at that point. But anyways, I beat everybody out, and they were just kind of, it was more just like, oh, let her audition, just do a favor. And he told me in that audition, he's like, I got you in my head. I'll give you a ring when the time is right. And sure enough, 3-4 years later, he
Okay, also
called
you
and
didn't get the Britney Spears gig, but you were
didn't
on
get
the
the gig.
radar.
No.
But just showing up to the auditions. And when you say a horn contractor, I mean, I'm doing the math in my head. That's, I'm not from the session world. That's somebody who can hire out horn players. So a
Yep.
musical director hires a contractor. The contractor hires the players.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's how it started.
So cool. And what was the Queen Latifah gig like? Was she doing, I mean, I'm trying to think of her music in this from a guitar point of view. Maybe I'm just not familiar
I
enough.
mean, it's not guitar
World.
heavy,
Yeah.
I'd say like maybe back in the day when it was more beat oriented, there'd be like a meters sample or
Okay.
something like that. Later on, she put out a couple of like jazz records, and that was more like Freddie Green and stuff like that. She did like a, pop record where it was like California Dreamin', all kinds of stuff. Um, And there was actually a record we did. It was me, Questlove, Pino Palladino, James Poyser. It was engineered by Russell Elevatos, like the whole D'Angelo Voodoo crew.
Whoa.
And sadly, that never came out, but, that had a
Whoa.
lot of guitar in it.
I mean, yeah, I love how you just roll through the heavy hitters like that. I mean, those
It
are
was
huge
one of my
cats.
first sessions ever, like of that magnitude,
Wow. And are you
Um,
nervous going into these kind of things? I mean, what is that
yeah,
like for a
I
younger
was.
guitar player?
Yeah, I was like, I wasn't nervous, like terrified, just more like, wow, because my mentor was Spanky Alford, who played with all those guys and played on Voodoo, D'Angelo, and toured with them. So it felt very full circle for me. Like Spanky was my mentor, and now I'm playing on a record with his peers, and Spanky was still alive at that point. So, just wanted to do right by Spank and by me and just, play something musical and do a good job,
And then
which I think I did. But
it's incredible. I mean, is there any acknowledgement of like, race or gender or these kinds of things going into these sort of situations? I mean, does that, especially as a younger person coming into these things, like
no,
it doesn't
I
really
mean,
get
maybe
talked
for
about?
other people, not anything that I mean, I'm sure there's, oh, we want to hire this or that, but I mean, no, with that particular situation, it wasn't like, oh, we want to hire you because of your age or because of, just got the call because they had, been in the camp and
A job's a job, and if you're on stage, everyone else in the band knows why you're there. Everyone's there to do the
yeah, I
same
mean,
job.
in that particular case, I had met Questlove before. He had heard Soundcheck. He really loved my playing at Soundcheck, and we talked, and that's what led me to work with him, and be friends with all those guys, the whole Roots crew, and whatever. So, I mean, yeah, there was a musical history before that session happen. But I hadn't been knowing them that long. I mean, maybe 6 months or something.
That's incredible. I mean, I feel like
Yeah.
there's definitely that thing of like where music transcends all those other things. I don't mean to, to bring it up, but I'm so curious because I'm not
No,
from
I'm
that
I'm
world. And
happy to talk about anything.
uh,
Um, I think at the end of the day, I mean, um, I mean, especially in that kind of music, I feel like it's a music that has a particular an accent, like, oh, where are you from? Oh, I'm from France. But then someone's like, wait, where are you from? Like, oh, from that island off of, it's just that because of the feel, it's an
mhm.
accent. And so I think at the end of the day, like if you come from that place, and if it's a lived experience and you can make that music feel a certain way, then I think that's all they care about. I mean, I'll speak for myself. Like if I'm working with someone, I mean, for me, I don't care what gender I mean, it's just literally like, can you make it feel good?
Yeah, music's music. It's not about the person. Um, in in that way, when you talk about mentorship, like how did you get involved in having a mentor, and what was that experience like?
I mean, with Spanky, I just sort of cold called him. I mean, this was, long before, I mean, the internet existed, but there was no social media, no Facebook, no YouTube, nothing. So if you wanted to find someone, I mean, you literally had to do sleuthing online, and I found him and called him and told him he was my favorite guitarist ever and that I have all the records he played on and I've learned all of his parts. And I just wanted to learn from him. And it was about a year of, you know, missed calls and chatting on the phone and playing for each other. And then one day I was taking finals at Berkeley. It was my first year in school. And he's like, hey, I just got home from New York. I was doing a record with Roy Hargrove. It's the holidays. I got some time off. Do you want to come down to Huntsville, Alabama? We can sit down and play guitar for a week. So I dropped out of school. I never looked back.
Whoa! I mean, that's the graduate course right there, right?
I
That's
mean, yeah, yeah, kind of,
that's
yeah.
huge. That's huge.
Yeah.
I've been through Huntsville a few times. I did Space Camp as a kid, and then we
Oh,
played
cool.
there on tour as a band. It
Very
was a
cool.
cool kind of like arts collective scene there in Huntsville.
Yeah. Yeah. I think mentorship it's important. I mean, in the case of Spanky, if for nothing else, his, his heart, his musical generosity, just experiencing an older musician um, sharing with a younger one with no expectation and just giving out of love. I mean, we had a connection musically or personally or
Mhm.
whatever, but that was, that restored my faith a lot in music because I had some pretty shitty, I wouldn't even call them mentors, but just teachers,
Mhm.
that learned a few things and went out into the world and it didn't work for them. And then they came back into their institution and regurgitated the same information that didn't serve them and
Mhm.
just had a bad attitude and a darkness about them. So Spanky really, it's like being in a good relationship with somebody out of an
Mhm.
abusive one.
Well, you bring up a good point about that kind of that teaching path. You know what I mean? Like it almost poisons the well in some ways if someone's coming into a place of learning with that kind of resentment from whatever professional or public things that
Yeah.
didn't work that brings them there. Like they're going to bring that with them.
Yeah, because think about how many stories of people mostly with piano, that were like, oh, I was a pianist when I was young, but I don't play anymore. My
Hmm.
parents, there was a girl I knew growing up that was just a phenomenal classical, I mean, competition winning, blah,
Wow.
blah, blah. And she quit, and I mean, she was just prodigy, but quit. She's like, I don't feel it. It was something my parents made me do and paraded me around. And
Oh, well, that has its own kind of post traumatic stress and its own sort of trauma that has to be healed. That probably has so little to do with the art or the
yeah, so I
performance
mean,
of
that
it.
was it for her. She'll never, I mean, I hope she returns to it, but it didn't come from a loving, like organic place. She didn't associate it to those kinds of memories. And so when she was old enough to have the choice to not do it, she chose, not to do it anymore.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense. I mean, I have two little sons, and my wife plays music, and I play music, and we're always talking about that. Like, we want them. Like, wouldn't it be great if they learned piano at this age? Like, we always hear like
Yeah.
it'd be so easy if they did it. And the few times we've sat them down, and it's just they don't have the patience.
Yeah.
They don't want to do it. And the last thing I want to do is force them to
Yeah.
do anything, let alone
Yeah.
music. Cause again, that like, it's so close to my heart that if there was ever any
Yeah.
kind of like feeling of pain around that, I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I couldn't handle it. Um, I think about too, like, as you're saying, talking about mentorship and really just playing music in a room with another human being, especially one that's, someone that's better at the instrument that you're playing, or around a group of people, even if they're on different instruments, there's so much, elevation that can happen in that. I'm just speaking from my own experience, but if there's an intimidation that comes, sometimes like, I don't know if I belong here, the kind of an imposter syndrome that I've experienced, but at the end of the day, I end up learning so much just from playing in there, all my mistakes that I'm so embarrassed to make ultimately with the things, I had to learn. I learned so much by making these mistakes in front of people who are better than me and them taking the time to kind of go, oh, try it this way. Or have you looked at it this way? Or just watching them like, that's how they're doing it. Okay.
Yeah. It's priceless, really.
Yeah. There's that thing for anybody starting out, you know what I mean? Where it's easy to feel intimidated and to feel like, oh, I can't do that. But so there's also the time, you got to, they talk about 10,000 hours or whatever it is. It's probably
Yeah.
500,000 hours, but just living with an instrument long enough. I always make jokes with my friends or with other parents that I meet. It's like, oh, you're good at this. It's like, no, for as long as I've been doing this, I should be a lot better. I'm a pretty crap player for as long as I've played. I play the way if I was really good, I'd be play like a teenager.
Yeah.
But
yeah, a lot of hours. That's for sure.
Right. I mean, what as you're developing, your own voice and your own technique, like what are some of the things that, that you're taking from some of these other players? I mean, it's specifically rhythm. You're focused in that. Are you learning, chord theory, the shapes how do you develop that kind of that rhythmic voice, or what are some of the things you've learned?
I mean, a lot of different ways. I mean, I can certainly point to specific guitar players, like with Spanky Alford. He had a certain chordal vocabulary. He got a lot of voicings from Joe Pass Virtuoso Records, and who had a very nice way of connecting chords. And Johnny Smith, who played a lot more close position chords that are associated more with like piano voicings and stuff like that. And Spanky sort of took a lot of those influences. I mean, it was certainly more than those two, but, took those and kind of made his own gumbo with it, from being, a church musician, playing with playing quartet his whole life, with the Mighty Clouds of Joy and stuff. So from him, just a lot of voicings and ways to connect stuff. My friend Jeffrey Lockhart, he's a professor at the Berklee College of Music. Very, really influential on my rhythm. Jeff plays upside down, and he just has, he has his influences from, Miles Electric Band and Leo Nocentelli and Hendrix, but he just had a certain way of approaching the instrument, a certain touch, a certain, I don't know, just way of thinking about it, and that was wildly influential for me. Jimmy Nolan with Ghost Strokes and playing less notes. Country Kellum, who was the other guitar player with James Brown, and Cheese Martin, they had a way of more like being felt and not heard, where sometimes you think you're hearing like, it was almost like they, if you're playing like a drum beat, well, obviously, you got drums behind you, but like they were like the ghost notes to the drum beat for Jimmy Nolan.
Just holding back the withholding on those spaces to kind of let someone else pop in, or like let it. Yeah.
Yep. Felt not heard. So that taught me a lot about, just thinking about music like a drum. Wah Watson, who was also sort of a mentor, got to know him before he passed. From him, rhythm, but using more psychedelics and using the wah wah pedal a lot. David T. Walker, which is sort of more with Spanky, more chordal stuff. Ray Parker Jr., for just that like raw, scratchy Detroit funk, just
Mhm.
like in your face. And he could say so much with like one note, two notes. Um, I'd say those are kind of the big, um, you know, influences of my rhythm. I mean, my friend Charlie Hunter, he's another one too. Grew up listening to his records. Um, yeah, those are
It's
kind of the
huge.
main influences.
And then so from Queen Latifah, where do you go next from there, career wise, or what happens?
Moved to LA and lived in LA for 10 years, toured with Erykah Badu, Kanye West. Um, and yeah,
Wow.
just did the LA shuffle for 10 years touring. I didn't really even need to live in LA because I was kind of never home. I was just on the road.
It's living out of a suitcase
Pretty
all the time.
much, yeah.
I mean, both of those performers are notable for many reasons. I mean, and
Yeah.
any stories you can share from being on the road with either of them, Erykah Badu or
Um,
Kanye? I mean, how much interaction do you have with a performer like that as part of a band or as a session thing? I've not been in that position. I don't really know.
it depends. I mean, Erica's like a friend. I mean, I'm working on her new record, playing guitar on stuff, and we're friends. So um, that situation, yeah, it's I can call her and we can talk and whatever. And if I worked with Jay-Z or Kanye, like, yeah, I'm not having conversations with them. They'll talk to the band leader,
Okay.
and say what they need to say, and that's way more like see you on stage kind of thing. You don't see them. But no particular stories, just kind of a life of just going country to country, show to show, and you know, doing
You're
it.
and you're in the crew and like rehearsals for weeks, months leading up, and then
Yeah,
it
I mean,
becomes
for a
mobilized.
tour, I think the longest I've ever rehearsed for a tour was the Queen Latifah tour. With Erica, I'd say we're rehearsing about 2 weeks before a long tour.
Okay.
Um,
And
yeah.
everyone knows the material when they show up. It's all in there.
I
I
mean,
mean,
it depends. I mean, sometimes we're hearing new material, so we're learning it in rehearsal. Sometimes we're showing up knowing the music, but all the arrangements get changed or the key changes, or they want to do like a remixed flipped version of the song. So it's a combination of um, being prepared, but being open to things that are going to change. I mean, with Erica, it's a lot more like that. Other tours, then yeah, they might be very, very prescriptive. Like these are the songs, this is the length, here's the stems, program the sounds. But with Erica, no. I mean, part of the reason my ear got so good was back then, like there was no stem separation software. I mean, I just had to listen to a two mix and pick out a part that was like buried.
mm. And then as an artist yourself, being on stage and performing these songs, like how is that? What's that experience like? I mean, do you feel sometimes that you're hemmed in, or this is the job, this is what you're there to do? I mean, where does your
I
sort of
mean,
personal
you know,
creativity and the job sort of?
no, I mean they're you're as a session person, you're being hired to help, so it's not about you.
Mm,
I mean, you certainly bring your life experience and your feel and your sound to a project, but that ain't your freedom of expression. That's their music, and it's you doing whatever that you can do to you know I don't want to say put them on a pedestal, but like you're kind of like in the framing business of putting a beautiful picture frame behind their music. So no, it's not about you at all.
okay.
Yeah, not at all.
And was that how was that as a younger person? I mean, is that something that was difficult to do or something? I don't know.
No,
Never,
it's easy. I mean, I
yeah.
don't want to be in the spotlight. I don't want to. My favorite thing ever would literally be to sit on a chair on stage and play some funky ass rhythm and some tasteful shit behind an artist and make them feel good. If they were like, Ella, we want you to be on the side of the stage, even better. I don't care. It doesn't, it's
You're
just
not
about
looking for the
music.
spotlight. You're not looking
No,
for
I don't care about that
the
stuff at all.
the
No.
dance move, swinging the guitar around. It's no,
No, I
no
don't care
heroics.
about being front and center. I don't care about getting a solo and walking around stage. I just like playing rhythm and being in the cut. So, yeah, if they wanted me to be off stage, even better. Just don't care.
I remember reading a story about I think it was Ed Stasium, the producer on those early or not the earliest, but the mid-career Ramones records. He would be behind the stacks doing the solos. So Johnny was
Sure.
just playing rhythms up there, and then you'd have a guy doing a secret solo
Yeah.
behind the amp.
Yeah. That's more my vibe. Yeah.
That's incredible. So then in between these tours, what are you working on? Are you writing for yourself? Are you
No, I mean,
writing for
I've
others?
never been an artist up until
Okay.
the last. I mean, I have a record coming out with Charlie Hunter, and it's truly the first record like I've ever done that's mine. I mean, it's not mine.
Mhm.
It's a collaborative project, but I mean mine in the sense of I'm playing guitar on it. I've put out music under my own name, and they've been these pieces, classical piano pieces that I've written. But when people listen to them, they're like, "Oh yeah, someone has your name, but they're a classical musician." So, I'm like, "No, that's me." Um,
In doing research, I found this on the streaming platforms, and I was like, "Oh, okay.
yeah,
Like, is this another
yeah,
side, or is this something different?" Okay.
yeah. No, it's me. It's
Oh, wow.
me.
It's beautiful.
So, thanks. So, yeah, this record with Charlie sort of the first time that I feel like I'm being introduced to a lot of people. I mean, the record's not out yet, but it's like, oh, we know Ella for playing rhythm and funk and Silk Sonic or Erykah Badu or however you know me, and it's like, oh, here's a music that aligns with what she's doing. Up until now, I haven't had anything because I've just made an entire career building everyone else's empire, and helping other people with their music.
It's wild. I mean, it takes a lot of work. It's not a small task to do that, to do what you've done as a session player.
No,
And
but I
touring
mean,
musician.
I feel like being a musician, it's kind of I tell students like um you're there to help. And if you don't like helping people, you shouldn't be a musician. Um
Mm.
So I've always known that going in. It's not that like someone took me by the hand and been like, hey kid, this is a collaborative process. You're here to help. I mean, it was just something I just like to do to just kind of help in life. It's why I teach the way I do and give for free and put love out into the world. I just like helping people. So I've never felt stifled or, you know, unfulfilled with it. I mean, there's certainly projects that I'll say no to and certain things if I don't feel them. But no, I like getting on stage and helping Erykah, so to speak, making her songs sound good, or whomever I'm working with.
That collaborative process as a musician, I think, is something the closest I've ever felt to, alchemy or magic or something, where the product is greater than the sum of the parts. You know what I mean? These people on stage, 2 + 2 = 100. So,
Yeah.
it just,
It certainly can be when everyone is listening, and that's one of the things I love about playing Erykah's music in the band is that everyone is listening, and there's a lot of musical generosity, and there's a lot of grace and space left for people to do what they do. And I'd say her music in general is written that way, period. But even with the live musicians, so I really, yeah, I like playing her music a lot.
it's so cool. You talk about education. Do you offer formal lessons? And
Yeah,
what
I
is
have
your
a
experience like there?
Patreon. I
Mhm.
have a Patreon page. It's Feingold Music, and I do all my teaching on there. And then I teach privately. People can book me. There's like a link in my bio for social media. And yeah, I teach privately, and I have Patreon, and I just kind of do that in between sessions, and yeah, I enjoy it.
And how difficult is that? It is like you said, when you were coming in, some of the things, you didn't want to learn the scales or things exactly. Are you trying to, how do you approach teaching as an artist?
I mean, for me now, teaching just kind of I teach people the way I wish I was taught.
Mm.
Is the simplest way to put it. And teaching now like heals something for me that needed healing. Um, and it's also a way to give back like Spanky gave to me and other musicians. And I just try and approach it in a very informal,
Mhm.
conversational, how are you? Like, how can I help you? Like,
Mhm.
what are you trying to do? What do you want to do? And just getting a sense of what they want to do without imposing this is the rigorous course that you have to go through in order to get here. So I just do a lot of listening and listening to their playing and listening and just asking them what they want and listening in between the words that they're actually saying and kind of figuring out, are they feeling agitated and nervous? Do they feel imposter syndrome? And just trying to offer help and support any way I can.
It's so cool. As I've matured and gotten older, and I've realized that like so much stuff I don't know or just bad habits I have as a player, and so I'm constantly. I think that's how I first came across your Instagram page, is always just looking for different people playing and techniques and just ways of learning and just being inspired or looking for stuff. The longer I play, the more I go. I need to learn more. I know so little. I feel like the longer I do it or the more I learn, I realize like, oh, I don't know anything about this. I don't know
I
anything
mean,
about
me too.
funk rhythms.
Sadly, the same with me. Sadly, a lot of people, it's like the Dunning-Kruger syndrome, and the less they know, the more they think that they know.
I think you almost need that though sometimes as a kid, just to to get up on stage. If you really knew how dumb and
Sure.
naive you were, you would never do it.
Yeah, I mean, the
you gotta get on
confidence is
stage.
a
Yeah.
yeah, it's a beautiful thing. But yeah, I mean, every day I just look at it like it's another opportunity to learn something, you know, in life. But if we're talking about music, it's just another day to learn something new.
It's so cool. Well, I want to get into gear a little bit too. Like what, we talked about your
Sure.
kind of first stuff, Yamaha, I'm a bit of a gearhead and, obsessive. And I think that kind of way, I think guitar, I don't know what it is about the guitarist brain that kind of leads to this sort of stuff, the nuances and the tone sort of chasing, like what sort of, where are you at now? And I guess I'd love to kind of just talk through some of the stuff, that you, on your gear journey, like what are you playing now? Or what do you like?
Um, it depends. I mean, the record I did with Charlie, I'm playing a $600 Mexican Stratocaster with my inverted tuning. That's a tuning I use that's very different than standard tuning. And I use a really thick ukulele felt pick that a rep at D'Addario gave
Whoa.
me. And I didn't know that I ever needed it in my life, but I did the whole record on that. And a 67 Princeton, which is
Yep.
behind me. And
Beautiful.
that's the entire record. No pedals,
Yep.
guitar into amp. That's it. Um, when I perform with Erykah, I have a BB King Lucille that Gibson gave me, and it has Bartolini pickups in it. And I play like a Dunlop stubby pick as a very glassy kind of sound. And that guitar works nice for Erykah's music because I can scoop out the mid range with the Veritone switch and just have like a bottom end punch and a crisp top, but all the middle gets sucked out.
Mm.
And it works really nicely for her music. And then I just have a bunch of, I think I have, someone asked me and I counted the other day, I think I have like 26 guitars or something. And a lot of them were given to me as endorsements. So a lot I kind of just don't use.
Mhm.
But those guitars are really just about playing on people's records and just, what does the song need? Oh, it needs a sitar here. Oh, it needs a nice Firebird, sound in the middle position. Oh, it needs like heavy flat wound gauge, Jimmy Nolan kind of, so at that point, like I'm not necessarily performing with those guitars. They're just tools that need to be, used on a record. And I never know until I get into a song and just kind of figure it out.
Yeah, it's sort of like someone saying, like a painter, like, "Oh, why do you have so many paints? Why do you have so many colors?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Well, that's the
Yeah.
job. The job is to have the
Yeah.
color for what the painting calls for, and all of these
Yeah.
guitarists have their own sort of color."
I mean, there's certainly another approach, which is, I'm Ella and I only play this guitar and this is what you're getting on everything. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that approach, but I don't know. I just think for me, there's just other colors that I hear and I want to, sometimes I wouldn't say I want to sound like different guitar players, but I just want to evoke other flavors and colors. And so, putting a Strat on the bridge pickup direct in the right speaker and a jazz box through a small combo amp with a tremolo in the left speaker, it's just it's a recipe that I like.
Yeah.
I don't mean literally that for every record, but
No.
that might be what I want on a Thursday.
Those are two distinct voices. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That can really, like, obviously they play well together, but you almost sound like two different characters. I think that's one thing as guitarists, we really do get that opportunity to sort of like, play with the personality of the guitar. You know what I mean? I think that's what's so fun about it is, like, whether it's through distortion or through the amp or through just the feel, single coil or humbuckers, there's a whole kind of like myriad of ways of layering guitars. And so when we stand on the shoulders of giants of decades and decades of like incredible guitarists who have done that. So you almost, in some ways I play in my head sometimes like, ooh, what if this guitar player and this guitar player were playing together? And then I do it and it doesn't sound like anything. It's hopefully it sounds like me at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But it certainly doesn't sound like them. I've learned over the years, like the more inspired I am to just go straight to the source and just rip it off as close as I can. Cause it's not really a rip off as long as I'm citing the influence. And it's like, it doesn't sound like them because I don't sound like them. My fingers don't do what they do. And then the tone and everything else and the gear. And it's a flavor.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite things is like, a lot of songs that I'll write with a band or with other people, I'll just name the name of the artist. Like, this sounds like this band, it'll just live as that as a working title for so long. And in my head, other people are like, doesn't sound anything like that. I'm like, in my head, that was what I was writing. I thought I was writing a song for that band. And,
yeah.
So with this record, you're writing obviously all the music and writing the parts, or is it collaboration writing, or how is that?
No, it's a duo record with me and Charlie. So we're both writing.
And is that something on guitar? I mean, you talk a lot about, helping other people, with their songs, but in terms of your own guitar writing, what's that journey been?
I mean, it depends on the project. With this, it's been kind of a collection of, sketches, different ideas, a strong A theme and maybe a B, and then we flesh out the rest. I'd say what I typically don't do, or I can at least speak on this particular record, is like nothing was through composed. That it's 60 BPM and it's a minute 34 long. It's more just like, because we wanted to leave room for the music to just kind of reveal what it wants to be, rather than stifle it and force too much upon it,
So room for inspiration, kind of a motif or a theme, and then
room for improvisation, room for just bringing it, and Charlie being like, that's cool, but what if we move this here and do that, and not being, because that's what this collaborative process is about. So not being married to anything, just, I look at it like having a pile of sketches. Like, these are my charcoal sketches.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to paint with me and laminate them and frame it, and vice versa, and some stuff is just literally, we're just going for it. We're just picking a key and improvising. So it all depends. It's kind of each track has a different musical conversation, I guess. Different story.
It's so cool. And will you be playing these live? Are you going out as a duo to play live?
We don't know yet. Okay. We don't know. Right now we're just mixing the record and then we're getting it mastered, and then we have to kind of figure it out. Right now it was more just, we wanted to just make the record and haven't really thought too much about it yet. But I'm sure once it's finished mixing, we'll kind of have a plan.
I don't want to skip over Silk Sonic. I mean, it's
Oh,
a
sure.
huge, incredible record. Yeah. Tell me a little bit
Yeah.
about your involvement in that and what was that process like?
Yeah, I mean, it was great. It was a really fun record to play on. I had known Bruno like long before, he got a lot bigger. My best friend is his engineer, so I sort of met him when he was writing for a lot of people, and just coming into fame. So we had met a long time ago. And he had been hearing about me for a while through my friend, and sort of the record started with him calling me and texting me and just asking questions about gear and talking about records and, oh, I'm into this record and do you know about this and what do you think of this and what guitar do you think that is? And um after a couple of months on and off of just some random conversations, I think if my memory serves me correctly, he like played me something over the phone or something and was like, what would you play? And I mean, it certainly like crossed my mind of like, will I play on the album? But I'm not going to like bogart myself onto a project and be like, well, you should just let me do it, and maybe that's bad advice for younger people, but, I just want somebody to be like, I want you to play on it, just like dating a guy. I want him to call me and want to take me out, not, do you want to? So I just, waited for him eventually to say something. And glad he did. And if he didn't, that's cool too, you know. Um, so yeah, that's how the project started. It was just sort of very organic, conversational, getting to know kind of what he was going for, and that stuff is like certainly my wheelhouse, And yeah, and then we just kind of worked on it. It'd send me stuff to play on. I'd send it back. There'd be revisions or direction changes or whatnot. And yeah, it's cool. I got like a little Grammy plaque,
Amazing.
and it's yeah, it's definitely something I'm very sorry, keep this down.
Oh, no,
It's
it's all right.
definitely something I'm, yeah, proud to be a part of. And yeah, he, a couple of years after the record, he just one day, like there was a guitar at my front door, and he sent me his signature Fender guitar. So he's been very appreciative of my very small contribution, and it's opened up, more doors for me, and I'm very grateful,
That's
to my friend Charles and to Bruno and Anderson and the whole crew.
great. Did you
Yeah.
go out live with them? Did you record
No,
the live
this was
versions?
during the
No.
pandemic. It was
Okay.
like no, it was like during the pandemic, and I was also transitioning,
Okay.
so they didn't even know that, and wasn't really in a place where I wanted to be seen until, so the
That makes
timing worked out for all parties involved.
sense.
Yeah, I had
That's
been on
fantastic.
hormones for like 9 months. I think when the album came out, and had to talk to them before of like, hey, my name's Ella, and like it needs to be Ella on the record and not another name. So
Wow. I mean, what a great moment for that as well. Was that the first
yeah,
record you're credited as Ella?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
No, I
fantastic.
weeped in the car, just
Mm.
like wow, Remember driving to Target at like 8 in the morning or something, and going into the store and buying the record and getting into the car and being like, God, please let me just let me be on the name, my name. Like, I know I'm on the record, but a lot of times they leave your name off. It's like, please let my name be on there, and please let it be Ella. And, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I just like cried in the car. I was like, wow, I just felt like I arrived. It was the first time seeing it, because that was even before certain like, legal name change stuff was done. And it just, yeah. So that record will always mean a lot and be special, not just because of like its impact on other people and its success, but for me, it was a transition in my life.
Wow. Yeah. Such a huge personal moment. And then with your presence online, I mean, how has that been? I mean, I imagine what is this space been like for you? I mean, you're active and very positive in a huge way, and I see the comments and I kind of read stuff in there, as a fan. Like
Yeah.
how has that process been? Was there something, is there, were you driven to sort of like, okay, I'm going to make this space for me and for my music, and it feels like a very positive place from what I see.
Yeah. No, I mean, in the beginning, it was just kind of making the space about me and introducing myself, and just I didn't post about music stuff.
Mm.
Anything. It was more like outfits and just kind of, being like going through puberty in front of the world in my 40s. So it was more that, and then eventually started to share more musically, and it just naturally bloomed into what it is now. But it wasn't a conscious, thing.
It's so cool. I mean, yeah, the internet's not always full of you know puppy dogs and sunshine. And so I find, whenever your videos are up there, I'm just like, yes, this is the content I'm looking for. This is the
I
internet I want to be a part
appreciate
of.
it.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's that way because I get treated a certain way, which I don't really. I mean, I share it from time to time in my stories, but I get bullied, every week, multiple times.
Mm.
So I just don't want to put that kind of stuff into the world. So I try and just make my space about kindness. And if I'm being really honest, a lot of it is being visible and kind to normalize myself to people like you. And I'm not saying quite literally you,
Oh
but
no, yeah,
but I mean the
I'm a middle-aged
demographic.
guitar playing dad who goes to soccer games on the weekend and you
Yeah.
know hang
So
out
I
at guitar
mean the
shops. This is great.
demographic of people that might not understand who I am and who people like me are.
Hmm.
So yeah, some of it is that, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, and I think the politically and everything else that's going on in the world. You know what I mean? There's this like, I don't know, a lot of it I don't understand, obviously, but there's so much of this sort of sense of like, well, we're gonna remove words from government websites, or we're just gonna rewrite history, or we're gonna rewrite the president. Like this, it doesn't
Yeah.
exist. People
Yeah.
exist. They've always existed, and they're always going to exist. And
Yeah.
no matter what,
Yeah.
laws or
It's
don't say gay or these things. I mean, it's always just been, you know, uh,
a lot to say on it, and the
yeah.
short version is just, yeah, that is why I just try and be visible for other people that are like me, that might need to see someone like me being visible, that would give them courage so that they don't hate themselves at night, because I know what
Hmm.
that feels like. And to just, if nothing, regardless of who I am as a person, just to put some love out there, make someone want to. I don't mean make, but encourage someone to want to pick up their instrument and just have fun and
Hmm.
connect.
Absolutely. Have you gotten good positive responses from people?
Oh, tons. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, really a lot. And it means a lot to read everyone's messages, and it's really cool that it goes out into the world and reaches people, and it's cool. I've had some of my, absolute musical heroes follow me, like, well-known musicians, and we've become peers, and it's crazy.
It's so cool. Yeah. Like I said, it's this story of social media that I wish existed more. And I wish, more, I wish there was, your story uh, 100 times, a thousand times, a million times over, and sort
Yeah.
of claiming the space and sort of putting that out there. I think it's
Yeah, me
fantastic.
too.
So
But it is what it is.
yeah, it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
Um, where do you want people to follow you, or how do you like to people, are there any kind of
I
plugs,
mean,
or what can people look out for?
I'm probably most active on my Patreon and on Instagram, which is, my Instagram is Ella underscore Ray, RAE underscore Feingold, my last name. My Patreon is Feingold Music. I have TikTok and YouTube. I just don't enjoy being on them. Like, I'll cross post, but I'm never on the apps other than literally uploading something. And yeah, and that's about it. And I actually should jump off because I have to get back to the mixes. But yeah,
Yep.
that's far.
That's perfect. Yeah, we'll wrap it up here. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
How rad was that, Ella? Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Do yourself a favor and go to feingoldmusic.com. FEINGOLDMUSIC.com. I can almost spell. Feingoldmusic.com to see all things Ella Ray Feingold. There you can contact her for lessons, or if you'd like to hire her for orchestrations, performances, producing, composing. She also has her music that she has recorded and released for sale there. And you can also go to her Instagram, instagram.com/Ella_Ray_Feingold. That's ELLA_Ray RAE_Feingold. FEINGOLD. And follow her there for all her great updates and lessons, inspiration, and the fantastic feed that she has there on her Instagram. And everybody have a great weekend. Be safe. Have fun. Play some music. Play some funk music. All right. See you Monday.
I grew up around the grunge era, but my dad raised me on Motown and Michael Jackson and the OJs and Supremes and stuff like that. But playing music in the 90s, it was like Sonic Youth and Pearl Jam and Nirvana and Mad Season and all these bands. So it's kind of both at the same time. Yeah.